Hi, my name is Julie Mays, and I work for a government agency in northern New Mexico, and today I'd like to talk to you about ethical government procurement and subcontracting practices. The government has needs that subcontractors and vendors can fill with their goods or services, from goods like paper and pens to services like construction of an entire office building. The government utilizes various contracting methods to access these goods and services. Procurement personnel have a choice to either sole source a subcontract to a vendor or solicit several companies in order to attain competitive pricing. Treatment of vendors and subcontractors by the government's procurement personnel is strife with opportunities for unfair and unethical behavior. As a large source of business to the economy, the government has a responsibility to allow for a fair marketplace in which vendors and subcontractors can participate. In support of this idea, procurement personnel need to act in absolute impartiality and with integrity. Procurement personnel should have an awareness of ethical pitfalls to avoid. Some of the ethical issues to be alert to include conflicts of interest, fair access to information, bid shopping, contract documents and the language included, and treatment of small businesses. The first ethical issue to be aware of is the existence of conflicts of interest. Those in positions to influence which vendor receives the awarded contract should conduct themselves with integrity. Those with influence can include anyone from the proposal review team, project team, managers, or end users. Conflicts of interest may exist for financial connections or relationships with potential vendors and subcontractors. Financial conflicts of interest can include having a stake in the business, like owning stock, expecting pensions or future payment from a former employer, moonlighting for one of the bidding companies, or receiving lavish gifts. For clarification, modest gifts like stationery or coffee are generally acceptable. Relationship conflicts of interest are those that prevent impartiality because of a pre-existing relationship. For example, if one of the bidding companies in a solicitation is run by a spouse of the proposal review team, the potential exists for that reviewer to have a bias toward influencing the award to be made to his or her spouse's company. This does not allow for a fair opportunity for other vendors participating in the solicitation. Another ethical issue is the equal access to information for all bidding companies. Giving non-public information to a select number of vendors gives an unfair advantage to certain bidders in a competitive solicitation. For a fair chance at ultimate contract award, each vendor should be given the same information at the same time. Relevant information can include pricing data, like internal estimates for the work and other vendors' proposals, plan for the award, like the pricing range in which proposals will be considered competitive, plans for technical acceptability, and ranking procedures. Finally, technical information like intricacies of the project or requirements that will be imposed during execution of the work. If, for example, a construction vendor was told by the government's team that security escorts would be provided, but that the request for proposal documents didn't state this, other vendors would price in the additional cost of having security escorts. The vendor that did not include pricing for the security escorts would likely win the award based on providing the lowest price, but in reality, another vendor may have provided a lower price, if not for the additional personnel. Bid shopping is another potential ethical problem and occurs when a vendor's proposed price is revealed to another vendor prior to award in order to achieve a lower price. The practice is considered highly unethical, yet not illegal. Bid peddling is bid shopping, but in reverse. It occurs when a supplier contacts the contracting official in order to offer a lower price than the presumed awardee. Reverse auctions are very controversial. The contracting official creates an online forum in which vendors compete to provide the lowest price for the contracted work in a prescribed amount of time. At the end of the reverse auction, the lowest bidder wins the work. Although it is an accepted practice in the commodities industry, it has been making an appearance in other areas of business like construction projects. The reason it is so controversial is that it can be considered a version of bid shopping. Careful attention should be paid to the development of contract documents to avoid potential ethical pitfalls. Vague and ambiguous language, especially in the scope of work documents, can lead to excessive change orders. Some subcontractors who have experience with government customers take advantage of improperly written scopes by submitting excessive change orders. In fact, unscrupulous subcontractors purposely underbid projects in order to achieve the award, knowing that they plan to submit numerous future change orders. On the other hand, project teams who develop contract language may also unfairly hold subcontractors to requirements that were not clearly defined at the time of award. In order to streamline the development of contract documents, often default clauses are used. Not all clauses are relevant to the actual work to be executed, and as a result can cause bids to be higher than necessary for the work. For the most ethical administration of government contracts, the contracting official has a responsibility to bring impartiality to disputes, understanding that both sides have something to lose or gain. Further, the additional time to develop appropriate contract language and clauses can help administer the contract in the future and keep unnecessary costs to a minimum. Finally, inappropriate clauses and language can lead to legal disputes that involve vast amount of resources to resolve from both subcontractors and government agencies. Small businesses are important to the economy and to filling the needs of government agencies. 23% of all government projects are required to be contracted to small businesses. Small businesses typically do not have the same resources available to large firms to commit to developing proposals for government contracts. In an attempt to allow them the same opportunities, government procurement procedures have attempted to remove obstacles to small businesses in achieving government contract awards. Small business set-asides are entire contracts that only small businesses can bid for. Large firms are excluded. Preferential pricing practices like the Northern New Mexico pricing preference adds 5% to the lump sum price proposed by large firms outside of the Northern New Mexico region, thereby giving small businesses an edge in lowest priced awards. There are also allowances for minority-owned small businesses to receive sole source contracts. Along the same lines are mentor-protege programs where small businesses are teamed with experienced businesses to help them navigate the complex nature of government contracts. The 8A program is a mentor-protege program that teams disadvantaged small businesses with other small businesses who have seen success with government contracts. If a vendor or subcontractor believes there was improper behavior conducted during the solicitation of a contract, they can protest the award. Common reasons for vendors to challenge an award are that they believe the award was not made on previously published evaluation criteria. Often, the proposal review team wants to award to the vendor that they feel will best complete the work. However, they must base the award not on their feelings, but on evaluation criteria stated in the solicitation documentation, like meeting minimum experience, safety, and key personnel requirements. One of the most common reasons for a protest is the belief that one or few vendors were treated differently than the entire offeror pool. The solicitation is particularly vulnerable when there's an incumbent subcontractor or a relationship has developed over time between the project team and a repeat vendor. During the protest, the vendor may have access to the solicitation documents, including the proposal evaluation reports. If unethical behavior is found, conflicts of interest, unfair access to information, or bid shopping, for instance, then legally the government may be required to reconsider the awarded vendor or even recompete the work. Bid protests and the outcomes investigated by the U.S. Government Accountability Office are published online at gao.gov. The FAR is the guiding document for all procurements that the government makes. It provides minimum requirements and instructions for soliciting, awarding, and administering contracts. As stated in the FAR, its intention is to provide direction for fair and ethical contracts that meet the needs of customers, vendors, government agencies, and the public. The fact that the FAR is over 2,000 pages in print gives credence to how complicated government procurement can be, and that there are many ethical issues surrounding all stages of the procurement process that need to be addressed. The Procurement Integrity Act, or PIA, is another piece of legislation that regulates the government's procurement practices. It mandates that those acting on behalf of the government to procure goods or services cannot release information about proposals or selection prior to award. I am frequently called by bidders prior to award who are trying to learn who the award will be made to and for how much the award will be made. The PIA bars me from revealing this information. The legislation also states that contracting officials are prohibited from working for a contractor of awarded projects over $10 million for 1 year. This limits the possibility that the contracting deputy will purposely make an award to the company that promises to hire them. Vendors who violate the federal acquisition regulations can have their existing government contracts rescinded or can be debarred from receiving invitations for future bids. Government officials who conduct unethical procurement behaviors can be reported to the Inspector General and ultimately face termination or even legal action. Some violations of the FAR or PIA may result in severe criminal or civil penalties. Additionally, jail time may result for some violations. For example, acceptance of bribes may result in up to 10 years of imprisonment and fines. There are many issues that face the government procurement personnel and subcontractors in the award of contracted goods and services, but with awareness comes the ability to prevent violations. For more information about the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the entire document can be found online at acquisition.gov. Thank you for your time, and I hope you found this presentation to be informative.